Phoebe, light.
It doesn't work.
Line.
This is how I made the EP.
So, the conception of the EP, I guess. So, I grew up in a classically trained family, and I did play violin, and I was in a choir for a very short time. Probably, I'd never considered singing. And I really didn't like classical music, so I kind of went on to focus on film in high school. I ended up befriending a songwriter friend who was back then my vocal teacher, and she sort of introduced me to songwriting. So the whole project started in high school when my high school teacher recommended a movie, which I thought was called Party Machen. It was a French movie, as I believe. As you can tell, Party Machen is clearly not French, so yeah, I thought this might be a really good metaphor for how naive I am with men sometimes, and I went with that. Over the past 4 years or so, I wrote roughly 4 songs for the project. You know how like people say that they write 200 songs for an album? Like I would never do that. Like never do that. But yeah, I thought if there's anything this could best describe my relationship to men. So, sort of the soul of the project is vanity. The song captures the whole spirit. When I was writing it, I was sort of imagining this little kid playing with their toys, and you know, when we were kids, we tend to project these characteristics and personalities onto these physical objects that do not have a soul, and they are just little toys that reflect our own ego and our own vanity. But it makes it so special that we do that, you know? We have these special connections to these things that lack all these positive characteristics or any characteristics. I thought it's a really clear example of what I wanted to capture of my romantic life. So overall the EP was written over the past, I would say 5 to 4 years, mostly because I wasn't able to put aside savings, but also life sort of happened to me. I finished college and I was working on the side. I have no regrets about it because I believe that if a song maintains its quality over 5 to 4 years, it means that you worked on something that is worth the wait, and I'm proud of it and I firmly believe in it. Panism, wow, it goes back to 2020. That was the time when I wrote the song with my friend, my vocal teacher. The song was inspired by the infamous lip sync incident of Milli Vanilli in 1990. I wanted to write a song that was super upbeat and super fun, but the lyrics focused on the horrors of the paparazzi cultures in the 2000s. I wanted to use this to argue that you would have to go through the hells in order to entertain other people, and how the horrors of these public personas fuel the entertainment of the audience. For this, I wanted to use the hook as a symbol of a broken record, so this is why it repeats the hook itself multiple times. In 2023, I had a mandatory attendance at a art gallery exhibition, which turned out to be really inspiring. The exhibition focused on the importance of giving names to certain entities, and this inspired this idea that if you can point out the trauma, give a name to it, give a name to the person that fuels your entertainment, and by giving name to it, you reinforce their identity and recognize that it is an actual person. I would like to shout out online piano. I don't even know. Over the past 4 years, I wrote most of my songs on online piano on my laptop keyboard because I used to have a keyboard at home, but it was just too heavy and would have been way too expensive to drag it all the way to Germany. So I ended up just using my laptop, and it has been my only source of instrument, which has been quite challenging, but you can put up with it. Hail to technology. Because of my musical background, I had a little bit of idea of musicianship, I guess, but I never really learned properly solfege or music theory or any of that, or I honestly completely forgot about all of these. I had an idea of what kind of song I wanted to do. I was inspired by Donna Summer, new disco from the 1990s, Spice Girls, but I wanted to give a kind of classical flair to it. And for these, I already had the arrangement in my mind, and I approached specific musicians to play their parts according to the chord progression that we came up with. Since I couldn't really explain myself properly, I just ended up making an Excel sheet for these musicians, and I sent them as a source of inspiration to what I wanted and how I wanted the song to sound through that instrument. The collection of these stems started in 2023, but it wasn't until 2024 that I actually started recording for the song. It was when I met the producer that I'm currently working with, who ended up being the best out of all. The rest of the record continued with a similar approach to getting to know different musicians and sending them inspirations in order to get the desired sounds back for the songs. Maybe a specialty might have been the interlude Party Machen, which is basically a cover of the jazz standard Crimea River. Surprisingly, the licensing process, which you have to request in case you are interpolating a song, ended up being ridiculously quick, but I must say it probably comes from the benefit of doubt from Warner and Chappell, so suited me. A super important part of the project was the making of a video. I grew up loving movies. I've spent my high school years studying, to some extent, some film studies. Because of this, I also always write songs with a music video in my mind. After the recording process ended, I jumped into the making of the videos. The video idea for His Fantasy comes from Cassavetes movies, my love for 1970s and 1980s movies and horror classics. The song also, similarly to the music video, was inspired by the idea of a feminine rage. When I was writing His Fantasy, similar in the spirit of Panism, I wanted to write a song that is uplifting by spirit but lyrically focuses on ideas of existentialism. A couple of years ago, I received a compliment from my fellow colleague at work, and instead of feeling super confident about it, I started questioning whether I do this for myself or to suit this hyper feminine idea of a gay male fantasy, and it made me question my identity and my authority over my own narrative. For the music video, I wanted to approach the idea of being lost in your own story, the subjectification of self, and the lack of control that we maintain over all, maybe physical appearance, beauty ideals, and the hardships of being an idea rather than an actual person. Long story short, I just wanted to capture the feeling of when you're going out with a guy and then you look deep into their eyes and you can see that there is nothing, all they're thinking of is that they want to fuck you. Prior to this, I actually had experience in directing music videos. I assisted my friend and I was in charge of directing and editing the music videos as well. So for this, I wanted to approach my own project similarly. I started it with a script, and for the script, I also made an initial mood board according to each section of the song. I also put together a visual inspiration, which included Al Pacino's performance in Cruising, and obviously, if there's feminine rage, it has to be possession, and we wanted to pay homage to the Metro sequence properly. Similar to the narrative of the EP, I wanted to approach videos with a narrative that continues throughout music videos. The music video for Panism was inspired by basically two different things. I wanted to capture the visuals of flashing lights, and I also paid homage to a Hungarian movie from 1956 called Merry Go Round. Because of the limitations of the budget, I've decided to approach friends of mine and people who are focusing on making student films to finalize the project. This included friends from my university's film department and also friends from my university, fellow coworkers, and complete strangers who I ended up befriending, which was lovely. The shooting took place in two separate occasions. One that took place in August, a roughly 8 to 9 hour shoot, which was super tough. But thanks to my friends who showed up as mostly background actors, but also as characters in the music video, I felt super elevated. It's all thanks to those people that showed up for me. So the second part just finished in December, which mostly took place at my actual room and also around the town in Berlin. A wonderfully crazy, super cozy night shoot. I made hot chocolate. I had friends coming over. We were chatting for like an hour probably. I was in makeup for a little bit, and then I also made some cookies and some snacks to eat in the meantime, and then later on we took on the whole project. The music video also relies on a couple of symbolisms in its visual storytelling. When I was thinking about my character, I was trying to step away from my preferred narrative, which is inspired by cabaret and the Marcel waves and the fashion of 1920s mixed with 1960s, to something that was a little more tacky. Through the process of styling myself and others, I ended up choosing the Brazil shirt. I was thinking of something that is tacky but also symbol that represents a country, which is printed on shirts and maybe bikinis and boxer briefs or all kinds of stuff. Instead of appreciating its original meaning, it became a hypersexualized version of exotism, and an image of a sex symbol, I guess. The club girl characters represent this night paralysis demons that sort of approach you. They are the controllers of your own narrative, a version of yourself that is removed from its identity and repurposes itself in order to fuel your self-worth through others' perception. For this, I ended up choosing Moretta masks from Venice, and these women were wearing it at the Venetian Carnival in order to control who they engage with. It used to be a super sultry mask actually, because it completely removed the identity of the women. There was a sense of control in it, in a way that women choose to remove the mask in front of people that they decided to talk to, which I thought was super cool. And obviously the mirror reflects the sexualized version of which we engage with, the version that we project onto other people, and the version that we are kind of forced to believe that is what is worthy. The post-production process took on roughly about half a year, if not more, mostly because of the two separate shootings. I was also editing the music video, and throughout the editing process, I found elements of the footages that sort of supported this idea of using the music video as a film inside a film, or at least a film shooting inside a film. And I came up with the concept of Tango, this movie that my character is shooting inside the process of the music video, if it makes sense. I also ended up working on the sound, which was a wonderful learning experience. I put together the sound design, basically included me recording little bits and bobs of me spilling water in the bathtub to breaking eggs. And it's just kind of ASMR, which was super fun, super wonderful to do. And later, as I did all of these, I went to my producer, and he was in charge of mixing the sounds together. What I've experienced over the past music video shoots is that it's always very important to have control of your own ideas, but also to bring new people as a new perspective into what you created. For this, I had wonderful collaborators in the colorist section, to on-set assistants through my friends who supervised everything and assisted my creative journey to a fruitful outcome. Thank you. So, after all of this, you can rightfully ask, how on earth did I afford to do all of this? Well, I didn't really. I got some support from my family upon them learning that I wasn't able to afford to go to UCLA, and I thought UCLA was ridiculously expensive, so I asked if I could do something else with some part of the money as a loan that I pay back, hopefully. So it was difficult. We had a super low budget, and the overall period was almost 1 year of me doing the whole project. I started 2024 February, and I finished just recently. So it's been a whole long ass of a journey. But since I first started writing the project in 2020, when I wrote Panism, over the years I was in touch with at least 5 different producers, which means that I presented all of these songs to different people. We try to work on it, but I think most of it depends on chemistry or whether you can work together properly. And I was lucky enough to find someone at the end, which was super nice after many different people. It doesn't mean that they were bad. It just didn't work out. But with all of these privileges, there were a lot of difficulties that occurred throughout the project. I think the hardest part of it was really the lack of respect that one kind of endures throughout this whole thing. It is already very difficult, I think, to be seen in the music industry, but to have the audacity to do both the film industry and the music industry was something that was quite hard for some people to grasp. I think there was a lot of belittling in the rooms, a lot of refusals, rejections, I guess, that come along. I've been very fortunate enough to work with a lot of friends, but you're gonna have to sometimes work with people you don't like, and that's pretty much how it is, and you have to get over that. And they might not think of you very highly. They don't care about your opinions, your vision, or they think that you're unexperienced or that your voice is lesser the moment you are more considered feminine. But you gotta push through all of that and do your stuff. I had days when people out of the blue asked for double their salary, or I had people not answering me up until the day of the shoot, or that they simply didn't find it important to send me documents for payments. So it was a bit of an ass ride for sure. It was very difficult to be heard. Often I think it can make you feel like you're kind of out of touch with your own project. Since I couldn't really afford to do this properly, I thought if I invest all this effort, I should really be present at the stuff that I'm really passionate about. So it can really bump you out when you see all these people kind of not caring about what you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, it's always a Thursday for some people and not the moment of their life. So I do get that. Because of this, I found it very important to give myself a lot of credit. Over the past year, I learned a lot about not only music production, but also a lot about video editing. I learned to do sound design. And I learned to understand how coloring works, but I thought people find it a little unpleasant to see my name quite present on the credits. But then even my friends would often ask if I actually produce or make my own music or write my lyrics or sing on the song. I thought it's really important to give yourself credit for the work that you did, because that's not really the point where you should reduce your presence, especially since it's your own work. I think over the past year, I really learned to give myself credits properly, but in a way also I let myself feel proud of myself. Still, a year later, many difficulties. I'm not an industry plant. I hope I can confirm that right now. I wish I was. I really wish I was, actually. I think the best way to describe my current situation is that it's one thing to do art that you believe in and that you think that is good or creative or worthy of attention, but at the end of the day, you can't really force people to either open your emails, answer your messages, or listen to your music, or in general, just make people listen to you. But it makes you really appreciate all the attention that you get authentically from people. So yeah, that was pretty much me making my EP for a whole year. A light, breezy, effortless year. Yeah.